It is crucial that you be involved in the decisions that are made that affect your lives and the fashion in which government treats you. I love you all. I love this state. It has been the greatest honor for me to serve Texas as its governor, and it has been wonderful to know its people. God bless you, and thank you all very much.
Call it a tsunami, a tidal wave, an earthquake of massive proportions. The 1994 midterm election stunned both the nation and the news media. Negative feelings about President Clinton in particular led to Republican majorities in the House and Senate. Surprising results also occurred in state gubernatorial races. How are these events covered by mainstream and alternative media? This program shall examine how selected media entities, both objective and partisan, viewed the election results through their particular prisms. It shall be presented in a video verite style, with media personalities speaking for themselves.
Count on God instead of yourself. God bless you all, and thank you for being with us in this campaign. Stay with it.
Well, that's Oliver North, apparently very gracious in acknowledging defeat this very early. I mean, he's not waiting for some last-minute count.
And it's a dramatic defeat when you look at all of the Republican pickups that we've been telling you about earlier tonight, John. We've been looking at some of the reasons why North lost, and certainly some of his negatives far outweighed in the voters' mind some of the negatives of Chuck Robb.
Yes, and he was the victim of a fairly intense media campaign over the last couple of weeks, and people had questions even beyond that, and so he's the part of the tide that isn't coming in.
The icons, I mean, General Powell went after him, Schwarzkopf went after him, Ronald Reagan went after him, and then Nancy Reagan, about a week before the election, weighs in against him, and that's pretty tough competition. Well, joining us now from our news bureau in Washington is the executive director of the Christian Coalition and author of the book Politically Incorrect. Ralph Reed, tell us, I know that there was a tremendous amount of effort for Ollie. What do you think?
Well, Pat, I think the bottom line is this. I think as you look around the country, it's not just a Republican tsunami. It's not just a Republican landslide, one that has the potential, although it's way too early to say, it being only, of course, about 10:15. We won't know, Pat, until probably sometime tomorrow morning or later. But this election has the potential to make the Republicans a congressional majority without the benefit of a presidential landslide for the first time since 1946. That's almost a half century, but it's not just Republican pickups, Pat. It's a particular kind of Republican. It's a term limits, low taxes, pro-life, pro-family Republican. You're seeing it in Maryland, where Ellen Saubre has a chance to become Republican governor of Maryland. Too close to call, but she's up right now. Spence Abraham in Michigan, Mike DeWine in Ohio, really all across the country. Why didn't Ollie join that trend? I think the answer is really very simple. We commissioned a survey that was just completed a few hours ago. We asked voters who didn't cast a ballot for Ollie North why they didn't do so. 51% said they had reservations based on his involvement in the Iran-Contra scandal. Only about 21% said it was because of his stands on the issues, and only 13% said it was because he was supported by religious conservatives. So, Pat, the bottom line is Oliver North didn't lose tonight because he was pro-life or pro-family or for term limits or lower taxes. He lost because he couldn't break through the firewall of reservations among voters about Iran-Contra.
We're still watching some of the results coming in and keeping our fingers crossed for people like Senator Dianne Feinstein and Ann Wynia, who's running up in Minnesota. And we'll just have to wait and see what the final results are. But we would have liked to have won more races tonight. I think clearly the American people are disappointed in the state of government generally. I think this is a referendum on Washington and Congress and government generally. And I think the president clearly now will reach out to the Republicans, to the new Republican leaders, should that be the case, tomorrow morning, and look towards working together to start rebuilding this country, to reform government, and to get moving forward. It's not about moving right or left. It's about moving forward. That's the president's commitment. I think that's where he'll want to go tomorrow.
The president campaigned very hard for Mario Cuomo in New York State. Looks like George Pataki has now won. This must be a major source of disappointment in New York State.
Well, absolutely. I mean, Governor Cuomo did a wonderful job for 12 years. He was one of the most articulate and impassioned Democrats in the country. His leadership will be missed. I'm sure he won't retreat from public life, however. President Clinton did campaign for him. I think it helped. It was a close race. The governor came from a ways back and almost got over the top. So we were grateful for that, but disappointed in the outcome.
Okay, Dee Dee Myers, thank you very much for spending some time
Wolf.
with us. Now back to the national desk.
He has been a drag on this ticket in almost every state where he's campaigned. And in the states where he was not welcome, clearly, Ann Richards in Texas. Let's use that as an example. Very popular governor in the sense of a personal popularity. Even today, the polls show that the majority of Texans like her. But she was an incumbent. She was an incumbent Democrat, and she was an incumbent Democrat tied to an extent with Bill Clinton.
Let me say, Sam, with the trying to govern and turn here to Jeff Greenfield, because after all, he's president. He still has some arrows in his quiver.
It would be nice. I'm glad you mentioned that at 20 after midnight in the East Coast. We should at least mention he has 2 more years left in his term. And apart from having nuclear weapons, not that I think he would use them against the Republicans, there are things he can do. For instance, the most successful initiative he's had, and one that he's not tried to sell, I think, with any consistency, is reinventing government, to go back to his roots as a so-called New Democrat. George is right. He runs the risk of alienating a liberal base. But if he said, in effect, look, what can I do with the Congress? Nothing. It's in Republican hands. But I can begin to show the American people that as a Democrat, I know how to whittle down the size of government. If this election forces him to do what, in my view, his instincts were in the first place, and the congressional leadership forbade him from doing for 2 years, it might be an interesting 2 years.
Koki.
I think it's very key, too, that the liberal base did not do him any good in this election. You look at Pennsylvania, Michigan, Ohio, New York, the liberals that he went to try to get out that base at the last bit didn't come. Those seats were lost. Only in Virginia did you see it, and Virginia was so aberrant because of Oliver North's situation. So I think that he has a real opportunity here to be the kind of Democrat he ran as, which is a new centrist Democrat, instead of having to play to that liberal base. They failed him today.
Over on my left, I hear all is not lost. Over on my right. What contributed most, do you think, to the loss here, Al?
Oh, I think it was anti-Democratic and anti-Clinton, that they simply perceived that the Clinton administration and the Democrats in Congress couldn't do the job. Now, you're going to hear a lot of talk in the next few days, few weeks, about cooperation between the Democratic president and a Republican Congress.
Oh, you could hear Phil Graham that night say the onus is on us to lead. Yeah,
Don't believe it. It won't last very long. 1996 is a presidential election. The 1996 presidential campaign starts tomorrow morning. And the Republicans in Congress, they can smell the chance to bring Clinton down in 96. They're not going to give him an inch. And he's going to be on the defensive. He's not going to give them an inch. Okay. It's going to be gridlock.
You can already feel, David, the Senate, the presidential race starting in the Senate.
It started tonight. Yeah. It's already started.
Couldn't we have a week? Well, couldn't we have a week maybe before we do?
No.
The others say the truth is relative. CBN News believes truth is vital.
If the Health Care Security Act is adopted by Congress, all Americans will have to adjust to the new penalties. But no one will be excused, as membership in the health care plan is not voluntary. It is mandatory. There are even fines for those who won't join up.
Major news broadcasts have ignored certain stories, and then because of CBN, they've had to go ahead and follow up on them.
The Supreme Court ruled that the federal racketeering law, known as RICO, may be used against pro-life protesters blocking abortion clinics.
You will be surprised at how often journalists are simply uncomfortable with telling the full story, and we will just tell the whole story.
I want to keep that source going. I want to keep that source there.
If you believe the truth is worth telling, call now and become a member of the 700 Club. Exclusive stories, investigative reports, and life-changing news made possible only through your support. Make an impact with CBN News.
Let's build the wall of freedom. Let's let the message of freedom go forth. We will not allow little children their rights to be trampled on in the public schools anymore. It's not going to happen. That was one of the reasons there was such an overwhelming electoral shift in November. One of the network announcers, the anchor on ABC, who will remain nameless, said American voters were having a temper tantrum like 2-year-old children. There was no temper tantrum. The American voters were very cool and calm to say we don't like the liberal media, we don't like the ACLU and People for the American Way and the Gay Rights Caucus and these others taking away our freedom. We don't like the elimination of our moral values from the public square. We don't like it. And we're going to put people in office who will change the laws to get them back the way they used to be. And you hear the chorus of screams now, oh, you might bring back prayer to the school. Well, isn't that terrible? We have drugs in the school. We have teenage pregnancies. We're giving out condoms to little children against their parents' will in junior high school. And yet there's this hue and cry that somehow saying a prayer to God is going to affect their children. That is nonsense. Now, it's time we do something, but we can't get this message out without your help. We can't have Jay and a whole team of lawyers go into court. We can't have all these demand letters being sent to hundreds of school districts around the country defending the rights of little children without some help. And the ACLU knows they're beaten. They're having a last-ditch fight. The People for the American Way left-wing fundraising group, according to the Washington Post, they know they're beat. Some of these other left liberal groups know they're beat, but we must understand where we're going. The ball is like on the 20-yard line. We've got to keep going down the field and score some touchdowns. We haven't won the battle yet.
Let me show you. Let me show you here, folks. Here's Ted Kennedy and the mumble at his acceptance gathering on Tuesday night. Watch.
We thank him for the battle he has waged, and we're glad about the outcome. To go back
the We're happy about the outcome to go. It's last call. You want to see it again? You want to see that one? You want to see that one more time? Here, take a look at this one more time.
And we're glad about the outcome. To go back
a couple other things here. Hey, if you're a liberal, it's been 30 years. If we want to gloat, we're going to gloat. And a special message for those, and I know you liberals are tuning in. You got the lights out, you're cowered in the corner, and you don't want to admit to anybody that you're watching this. We know you're there. You're scared. But don't worry, those jet planes, they're still yours. In fact, there may be even more now. I just want to leave you with this. We feel your pain. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
We have just seen a sampling of responses in the wake of the 1994 midterm elections. It is likely Republicans will continue to flay Bill Clinton in 1996. It is also likely that Democrats will assail GOP budget cuts as being too draconian. We do know that mainstream and alternative journalists will fight to set the agenda for media coverage of the 1996 elections. The mud will soon, if not already, begin to fly.